The 2025 Atlantic hurricane season officially ends Sunday. And for the first time in a decade, none made landfall in the continental U.S. While the U.S. was largely spared, areas of the Caribbean were not as lucky. Hurricane Melissa, you'll recall, the last named storm of the system, struck Jamaica in late October with one of the strongest Atlantic hurricanes to make landfall on record. According to the National Hurricane Center, 13 named storms formed in the Atlantic this season. 5 of them became hurricanes, and 4 became major hurricanes with sustained winds of at least 111 miles an hour. CBS News meteorologist and tropical weather expert David Yeomans joins us now. So, David, why didn't the U.S. have any hurricane strikes this year?
Right, that's the most significant part of the hurricane season. No direct U.S. landfalls by a hurricane. The first time we've seen that in a decade. It all has to do with the upper level steering winds that guide these storms around. And as you can see on the plot of this year's storm tracks, there's something called the Bermuda High, a high pressure that sits out in the open Atlantic. And because of the position of that high pressure system this year, it was kind of the season of what we call recurving storms. Instead of being driven westward toward the Gulf and eventually making landfall in Texas or Florida, other parts of the U.S., most of the storms this season curved before making impact. That's why you don't see many storms on the map in the Gulf, but such a high concentration of them just off the U.S. East Coast.
Some places weren't so lucky. Jamaica had their strongest hurricane on record with Melissa. How significant was that?
Right, the strongest one to ever hit that island in modern record-keeping history, and it killed at least 90 people from landfalls that it made around the region. It was one of the strongest Atlantic storms on record, and interestingly, it actually had the strongest ever directly measured hurricane wind gust. This was from what's called a dropsonde, those little instruments that parachute out of the NOAA Hurricane Hunter planes. A 252-mile-per-hour wind gust was measured, the strongest ever in any hurricane we've sampled. Now, that was about 800 feet above the ocean, so not technically a surface wind, but just an illustration of how intense a couple of these storms were this season.
Did climate change play any role in this season's hurricane activity?
Right, there's still some debate on this topic as to how climate change is going to affect Atlantic hurricane seasons going forward, but the answer is yes. The body of scientific research right now points to fewer Atlantic hurricanes each season going forward, but more intense storms when we do see them, and that's really what we saw this year. One of the most basic reasons for that is just these record hot ocean temperatures and ocean heat content that we keep observing. That acts like jet fuel for these developing storms.
How will this hurricane season be remembered?
Well, it's really the season of fewer storms than normal, but way more intense storms than normal. We have a chart here of the total numbers that we saw. 13 named systems. That's fewer than average, which is 14, and way fewer storms than we saw last season, and only 5 hurricanes. But what was notable, out of those 5 Atlantic hurricanes this year, 4 of them became major Category 3, 4, 5 storms. And out of those 4, 3 of them were Category 5. That's something that's only happened once before, about 20 years ago. So a lot of these top-end storms, very high-end storms. There's also something at the bottom of that chart called the ACE, or the accumulated cyclone energy. This is a fancy way of adding up all of the total energy created by these massive storms over the whole hurricane season. And this is another illustration of what we're saying. Fewer storms, but way more intense ones. Even with the lower than normal number of storms this year, we saw a higher accumulated cyclone energy from storms like Melissa that were Category 5.
All right, David Yeomans, very important information. Thank you.